Hello, my name is Bryn Gervasi. I'm the owner and operator of Level 3, a business located in the Second Life online community. Today we'll be discussing the first part of our multi-part series on the use and operation of the Level 3 Texture Vault. In particular, we'll be discussing the use of the texture canisters. Texture canisters act as the fundamental building block for the Texture Vault itself. Texture canisters act as folders that allow you to group like textures together. It also allows you to preview, delete, perform complex operations on your textures, and generally make the whole prospect of organizing textures in a meaningful way much more convenient for you, the user. Before we set out to actually organize any textures or use the texture canisters themselves, it's generally a good idea to spend a moment to think about how we want to actually go about organizing our textures together so that they're most useful and most meaningful to us. One way that might be the most beneficial is just to make folders and loosely organize all your textures into these folders within your Linden Labs inventory. But if you can find another way that's more meaningful and more useful for you, definitely go ahead and do that. But the point is that to spend a little bit of time thinking about what sort of structure you want to have for your textures before even beginning to use the Texture Vault, texture canisters, or anything in this regard. Luckily for this tutorial, Linden Labs has already provided us with such a structure. If we come down here to our inventory, pull that up, go to Library, take a look at the Textures folder within, we can see that Linden Labs provides us with a wealth of pre-organized textures that we can use for any of our projects. And it's from here that I'll show the use and functionality of the texture canisters themselves. The first thing we're going to want to do is actually get a texture canister. This is easily done by clicking on the main menu, which is the button here in the lower left hand corner. Give that a click. And we'll notice that we have a menu that drops down. From this menu, we're going to want to go ahead and select canister. When we do that, we're going to get a texture canister delivered to us from the Texture Vault itself. Now that we have it in our inventory, we just want to drop that in World, right click on it, and go to Edit. Now if you come to this Edit window and it looks like this, it just means you're in the abbreviated form of the Edit window. Just make sure to click the More button, make sure you're on the Content tab, and you're ready to go. Let's go ahead and scroll then back down to our textures. Let's start at the bottom and let's work with some of the woods here. You can see that Linden Labs has given us a number of different woods. We'll just highlight them all and drag them over to the canister itself. Once it's finished populating, we can close the Edit screen and give our texture canister a click. Once we click it, we'll notice that here at the top, we'll see the total number of textures. In this case, it's 9, and a number of different options. One of the things that we can perform, and probably is the best idea to perform on all of our texture canisters, is just to go ahead and remove any duplicates. And you can do that by clicking the Remove Dupe key. Once it's clicked, it's just going to cycle through all the textures, looking at their UUIDs, making sure that none of them match. If they do match, it'll report which one it's removed. But as you can tell, of course, Linden Labs didn't provide us with duplicate textures, and we have 0 duplicates. Let's go ahead and give it another click so we can look at some of the other options. One of the things you may also want to do once you have textures within your texture canister is just to go ahead and preview what textures actually made it in there. We can do that by clicking either the Next or the Previous buttons. When we do that, it's going to reshape itself to be a square. That just makes it a lot easier to view our square textures on that. Might want to rotate it so we can get a better look at it. And as you can see here, we have our Brazilian rosewood. And we can begin to cycle through the different textures by either clicking Next or Previous. Now, while we're going through here, let's say that one of these textures we don't like for whatever reason. Say it was improperly organized, or we just decide we don't like it after all, and we want to remove it from this particular canister. This is easily done. All we have to do is come over here and click the Delete button. Once we click the Delete button, we're going to be given a confirmation window where we can click Yes, Return, or Close. Of course, Close will close the menu. Return is going to return us back to our previous menu, whereas Yes is going to go ahead and actually delete the texture itself. We're going to go ahead and delete the old wood texture, even though more than likely there's nothing wrong with this one, but we'll just show the functionality of it. As you can see, it immediately deleted itself, and our texture count has decremented by 1. And if we go back, we see that we have mahogany. We go forward, we're back to our peeling paint, so definitely the old wood texture has been removed. Once we're pretty sure all the textures in here are the way we want them, we can click the reset button. What that does is gives us back our original shape and puts us in a position where we can start doing further editing. So let me go ahead and lower this back down. Now, since we're going to use the Linden Labs organizational structure they provided for us, this particular canister, we're going to go ahead and just name it wood. The way you name a particular canister is first by clicking on it again to get our menu, and then clicking rename. When we click rename, we're going to get a number of different options here. It's going to provide us with a little bit of information on how to go about naming it, but we're simply going to name it wood, so we'll type in name and wood. When we do that, we notice that the floating text above our texture canister has changed to wood, and it's already set. So we're done with one of our canisters. I'll go ahead and move this out of the way for a moment, and let's organize another set. This time let's go ahead and come down here to waterfalls. As we can tell within the waterfalls directory, we actually have a number of different directories, and this is actually will help us to show the power of the organizational system for the texture vault through these different canisters. We'll notice that we have two different particle systems here. You can see that there's actually a few scripts in there, but more than likely we're not going to want to mess with those since our main concern is with textures. So what we'll want to do is we want to start with the main folder, the main waterfall folder, just collect all the textures within and drop it into our texture vault. Again, we can perform a dupe check, even though more than likely Linden Labs isn't going to give us any duplicates, and as we can see there aren't any. Go ahead and bring it back up, and let's just rename it. Now this one's going to be called waterfall, so here I'll hit Control and up arrow so that I get my text back, and then I'll type in waterfall. Now this canister has been given the name waterfall, and it's finished. So we can just move this out of the way. Let's grab another texture canister, Resident World, and take one of the particle systems. Now each one of these canisters within the texture vault needs to have a unique name. This is not just a requirement from the texture vault itself, but Linden Labs really actually won't let you put two different objects with the same names of the same type. So we'll go ahead and select the first particle system and throw those guys in there. And we'll go ahead and rename it. So let's click rename again, get our familiar message there, and name it Particle System 1. We'll want to go ahead and add the other one as well, and I'll go ahead and do that as quickly as I can. And we'll name this one Particle System 2. Alright, now we have made 4 texture canisters, all holding our wood and our waterfall textures. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and pick these up so we can place them inside of our texture vault. We want to give Linden Labs a second to go ahead and fulfill our requests. But once we have them in our inventory, we can just right click on the texture vault itself and just drop these guys in there. Now we've added textures to our canisters. We've given our canisters names that are meaningful to us, and we've put them inside the vault itself.